All right, we are live for the Thursday edition of the morning check-in, and as always, running behind, scrambling, putting things together so I can present a good and interesting case as to how, beyond the Western media, I want to share with you two different stories, two different sources, one from the Eastern Hemisphere, one from the Western Hemisphere, and just the narratives that they both tell are completely different. And of course, we know what's at stake on this side of the world. So we know how the narrative will favor the agenda of the writers that have a lot of work to do to prop up the propaganda and to keep this narrative of China and Russia, not doing well and all that stuff in between. But anyway, looking forward to having a good morning, man. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope your day is off to a good start. As always, want to be short, concise, straight to the point, get to the gist of everything, and lay out a nice case as to how the bilateral trade advancement, as well as the shaping out of a multipolar world, is taking place right now in China, with the red carpet being rolled out and all the festivities whenever Putin comes to town, and there's a lot we can learn from that. And it just reminds me of the whole rethinking the dollar concept, how all this came about. And I was actually going through some of my archives and just looking at the progression of what's taking place in that area out east, and where we are now as a society, as a global economy, and everything between. And we're right towards the latter part of, I think, everything being fully revealed, and it's all centered around debt, and of course the primary debt instrument, which is the Federal Reserve note. And so, going to be a good morning, man. As always, start off with some good news, get into just some events happening out in China. Share with you two different narratives that tells two different stories, and then also get into some things happening on this side of the world as well, and especially around gold and silver. Of course, those are all always going to be some primary topics, especially as we continue to climb higher towards that $30 mark in silver, and surpass 2,400 in gold at some point, and what that means for debt instruments and all their derivatives. Spells problems. Okay, so for those who are plugging in, man, appreciate you as always. Don't want to not acknowledge your presence. So if you don't mind, make sure you guys subscribe, hit that bell notification, as well as the check mark if you're on Rumble. Show your love and show your support for the channel. And also, I want to give an opportunity for those who have already been a blessing beyond your presence. If you feel so kind and want to support the channel monetarily speaking, feel free to be a blessing in that regard as well. All help is appreciated. It goes towards helping pay for all the software and all the things I do on the back end here to put this show on. So links in the description if you guys want to be a blessing in that department. I would never turn down any assistance, especially being a one-man team or, two-man team, give or take, when I'm able to hire some help. But anyway, yeah, so hope everyone's doing well, man. Let me know who's tuning in, where you're watching from in the chat. I also get a chance to respond to a lot of comments whenever I can. And so I'm seeing more people connecting, especially on Rumble, from all throughout the country and even beyond. So that's always good to know that at least the message is getting out. So let me check into the chat real quick, and then we're going to jump right into it, man. Aces of Silver checking in says, good morning. How you doing, man? We got Vutran Tam the checking in as well. Bougie Prepper as well. Grand Rising Mike and chat. Appreciate you. Appreciate you guys, man. All right, so let's get into it, man. I'm gonna get into some news stories. Share with you two different types of narratives, and see what else you guys are keeping your eyes on. I have maybe, let me see, about 10 or 12 tabs, give or take. All things that's worth just bringing to the forefront, giving you guys something to chew on this morning, and getting you started on your day. But as always, before we do that, we got to get into some good news. Can't start your day off without the good news. I mean, the ultimate good news. So let me make sure I can put it on the screen here so you guys can see it. And also, for those who are blessed by these morning check-ins, starting off with the good news, let me know in the chat, or leave a comment if you're watching the replay or something like that, just so I can know that the word of God is actually reaching the people and doing what it's intended to do, which is to change lives from the inside out. That's the ideal goal for this. Okay, people, let's get into it. May 16th, demonstrations of power. I'm sure we all can use some of that in our lives right now. It says from Exodus 14:13, the New Living Translation says, don't be afraid, just stand still and watch the Lord rescue you. And it starts off by saying, are you experiencing situations that you're absolutely powerless to manage on your own. Perhaps you're facing vocational, physical, relational, or financial challenges that make you feel completely helpless, and you wonder, God, why have you allowed this? No doubt the children of Israel felt the same way as they stopped defenseless between the advancing Egyptian army and the impassable Red Sea. Yet the Lord had not abandoned them. He was teaching them a lesson they would need repeatedly as they followed him. Listen to this next line. That their weaknesses were simply the place to display his profound power. So when I came across that, I'm like, man, I pondered, thought, meditated on that a little bit. And then, of course, scripture came to mind when Paul was referring to how he sought the Lord 3 times to help him with his infirmities. And the Lord gave him a word referencing the same exact thing, that, his weaknesses is magnified. God's power is magnified in mankind's weakness, in a sense. And so I'm repeat that again. It says that their weaknesses were simply the place to display his profound power. It says, and as they stood watching, God divided the mighty waters of the sea and allowed them to pass on dry ground. Friend, you do not have to feel afraid or helpless. The Lord is with you. He opens the way before you with his wise, omnipotent hand. He has allowed these circumstances for the purpose of demonstrating to you how you can count on him completely. So do not fear, obey his direction, and trust him to deliver you. And then the closing prayer is, Lord, I am overwhelmed by these challenges, but I will trust you. Thank you for showing me your power and making a way for me. Amen. Man. That was a blessing to me, man. His power is magnified in my weaknesses. So think about, for me, just real quick, I think about all the areas of my life where, I can use a little tweaking or a little improvement or just some advancement in some areas. And I'm like, man, like those are areas where clearly I'm at this point because of some shortfalls on my side. And that's why I'm like, Lord, I trust in you to fill in the gap. I trust in you to fill in those areas to help me realize what I've done wrong, because they're more likely some habits that need to be refined. But then again, replace those habits and allow your power to come in and really, expose areas that I need to improve so that I can be more, beneficial for your kingdom, as well as to, use these opportunities to glorify you. So just a little something out there for somebody who might need that this morning. So hopefully it's a blessing to you. Joe, I appreciate the love offering, man. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for blessing me with like that. Okay, so with that being the case, let's get into some news, man. Let's get into some news. So we got the good news out the way. So we take the good news, put that as our foundation for the day, and then we just put some natural things on top of it. And then we'll try to end off today. I'll be open to some ideas, strategies, solutions, and things of that nature on how to deal with the natural affairs that we're talking about here. And so that's a way to try to get everything encompassed, from the spiritual, the natural, and the practical, the 3 aspects of our lives. Okay, but before I do that, let me just make sure I give people opportunity to plug their monetary literacy gaps, as I call it. Give me a second here. Got to get things situated on the back end here. But I want to also remind people, as always, if you haven't, the Rethinking the Dollar IQ quiz. 10 simple questions make a world of difference. More people are taking it. More people are taking the quiz, and hopefully from that, it just exposes a couple things that you may not have been aware of in reference to what you consider money. And so once you fill that knowledge gap, then the next step is to fill it in with information, and then of course taking actionable steps. Sweet and simple. So 3 steps to monetary savviness is beneath this video here. I encourage you to look into it if it's of interest to you, and definitely you'll be more blessed than you will be hindered in your journey to understanding this crazy monetary world we're living in. So rethinkingthedollar.com/quiz. Currently the average score is under 60%. And so take it if you guys would like to find out more about it. Okay, and then next here, I want to make sure I continue to remind people of the opportunity available through Colonials Metals Group. So I'm actually going to be speaking with Paul again, who is the CEO and founder of Colonials Metals Group. So I've definitely partnered with him to basically give people a chance to speak to an expert, someone who's licensed and a professional in this industry, and trying to teach people how to take possession of what is actually theirs in the form of a self-directed IRA. So if you're interested, fill out this quick form here, submit it. You'll be contacted by one of the representatives. Just ask questions before you do anything. Make sure it's something that you're familiar with and something that you might want to pursue, and then move forward according to whether or not it lines up with your goals, investment-wise. But it's a great opportunity for those to take possession of what is rightfully theirs in the midst of all this chaos we're experiencing. So I encourage you, visit the link in the description, colonialsmetalsgroup.com/RTD, or give them a call, 188-521-2448. Speak with one of their professionals and see what they have available and see how it can be a blessing to you. And also for those who qualify, who participate, you have a chance to add it to your stack. And so that's a part of the program they have going on for RTD community members, where you get a vault and some silver, I think up to $10,000 worth of silver, depending on where you stand qualification wise. So check them out if you're interested. Definitely a good opportunity for those who are so interested in doing so. And I want to make sure I put that out there for you guys. So go take advantage of it, people. Be blessed. All right. So let's keep it moving. I did not yesterday have a chance to really check into market activity just because of everything happening. But then I did realize that gold definitely got a little bit it got some mainstream media attention. And it wasn't just because of price. It was because of, Michael Burry, the big short out here, literally positioning himself heavily in gold when it comes to the miners, as well as other companies associated with gold. And so that right there garnered a lot of buzz in the media world. So I'm going to dive into that a little bit today, but real quick here, let's share with you what's going on currently as we speak. This is a current market activity. Let me show you guys what's going on here. For those who maybe not pay attention to it, or you may, let me get my big mug out the way here. So what we have, let me get my screen together. Bear with me. So what we have here, looks like as of right now, gold is $2,000. The asking price, $2,373.80. We got silver. Look at this, silver, the last of the monetary metals to even come close to being, I guess, it being realized what it's worth in USD terms, not even adjusted for inflation. And so right now we're at 29.49. So it is down 24 cents. So literally, it's good to say today we started off, the markets opened up, and it was at that 30 piece more than likely. So if we make sure I'm off the screen here, give me a second. Let me get this off here. Okay, bear with me. So just looking at the graph here, let me move myself out the way here. Trying to work things on the back end here. So we're at 29.40. So it looks like when the markets open, we got immediate slam down as always. They got it down to, was it 29.39, but it was set to open at damn near close to 30. So boom. So right now we're at 29.39. So of course by midday, late day, might be slammed down. The goal is, of course, never to let it hit 30. So if they can get this thing down to $20, they would love to do it. But given all the pressure from out east with the Shanghai exchanges, physical and futures, it's like, it'll be. So right now, just as a side note, I follow a lot of people who cover the Shanghai exchange, and as of now, silver was 32.49 on the futures out there. And so we know, side note, but we heard about how China literally did some disclaimer type of behind the scenes adjustments with their premiums to make it more suitable from the spot to the futures, because futures was getting ahead of the spot. And they was like, okay, well, we're going to charge you more if you're going to speculate in the futures. And of course, that basically brought it down a little bit to where they're kind of running in tandem for the most part. So that's a way to prevent manipulation from the West. And so right now it's about $32 an ounce in China. And here we got 29. So yeah, it's climbing, people. It's climbing. Okay, keeping it moving. Of course, I would have to talk about the crypto space, because the crypto space is where a lot of people are hoping and praying and wanting the crypto space to be a lifeline for them. So as of right now, as of the last hour, we have, let me make sure this is correct. Oops, give me a second. As of the last, let me just go 15 minutes here. So within the last 15 minutes, this is what we got out here. So big difference. The last 15 minutes, we had a little bit of a drawdown, but as of now, just zooming in here, let me see what we got here. As of the last hour, Bitcoin is down 0.2%, but for the week, it's up 7.2%. And Ethereum has been down all week, getting a lot of pressure, all surrounding the whole security side of things and all that stuff. So we see here a lot of green, a lot of red in between, depending on where you fit in at. So yeah, so I read a comment from one of the community members in reference to gold. And so, of course, yesterday I did a video with about just basically the transition from spot or the financial products of the ETFs into physical gold, that China is leading that way. And then also talked about the mineral exploration space with real gold. So some people, are favorable to it, some people are not. And I always want to remind people that, for those who speculate, whether you speculate in precious metals or in crypto or real estate or whatever it is that, offers an opportunity for you to earn yield on your currency, it's all according to your personal preference and your strategy. And so it's not for everybody, but it's for those who are interested. So, disregard it if it's not for you, but if it is for you, something to look into. Once again, I just put information out there. I don't give advice. I don't give anything like that. I just tell you what things that come across my radar, things that interest me, and I put it out there. So I've always stayed away from telling people directly how, what, where, how I move, because that could be considered as advice. So I don't do that. So anyway, just want to put that out there for people. All right, keep it moving. Let's get into it. So just some of the headlines worth mentioning today, real quick. So here's something that is like just at the end of the day, it's just going to be a number. But based upon the Western world and how life is centered around people's portfolios and equities or bonds, this definitely is something the mainstream media will love to continue to see climb. But Dow eyes 40,000 as stocks regroup near record highs. And so just the fact that stocks are near record highs lets me know that at some point, as always, because it's supposed to be cyclical with booms and busts, which they've, distorted that reality. So it's just been a boom for the last decade plus, give or take these, zero interest rate environment we were in until now. But anyway, there's a day of reckoning coming where, this Dow number, which is comprised of 30 companies, poor measurement of overall company productivity, will definitely correct. And just imagine, the excitement that goes into these numbers going up will be nowhere near the amount of fear and panic and just unfortunate events that come from when these numbers correct downward in an unfavorable way. But yeah, I remember, talking about the Dow when it was under 20,000, I think it was, when Trump was first in office. I remember talking about how by the time he was done as his presidency, it was going to be closer to 30,000. And of course, it was above 30,000, I think. And then even though Bidenomics have destroyed, the financial sector for the average consumer and investor because of inflation or the expansion of the monetary supply, this number has also climbed as well. And so I was thinking about this. This is a little rant. But I'm thinking, like, okay, if the Dow is currently 40,000, S&P, 3,500, whatever it is, I'm thinking, like, for those who are looking to retire in 20 years, how high those numbers will have to be then in order to equate the same level of value in dollar terms, even though cost of living will probably be astronomical, barring some type of reset, debt jubilee, which will probably happen. But I'm thinking, like, if Dow 40,000, in 20 years from now, for those looking to retire as a part of their mutual index fund, was it 2045 or something like that? Yeah, I mean the Dow will have to be 65,000, and nominally speaking, and then S&P would probably have to be 5,500 or 6,000 or 7,000 or something like that, to where it's like, okay, at some point people will realize, man, that these numbers are just not in and of themselves natural, normal, sustainable. It's just like, so it's like, okay, yeah, it's just bad. It's bad. But that's a part of the financial literacy aspect of, park your funds into these vehicles here and just sit back and wait, and compound interest will allow you to retire comfortably on a comfortable nest age of $1 million. Okay, yeah. Okay, forgive me, I ran too much. Just another little headline here. Things that make you wonder. U.S. industrial output flat in April. Manufacturing falls 0.3%. Manufacturing falls with broad declines in durable goods sector. So it's flat. Output is flat, but manufacturing falls. Okay. Confusing. All right. So what I want to do now is just get into the narratives given to us from the media, Western media, Eastern media, in reference to what's happening right now in China with Xi Jinping and Putin meeting, just because I've been following this for pretty much the length of the channel. That's what kind of got me started in the whole rethinking the dollar concept, is just monitoring and watching activity taking place outside of our borders in relation to U.S. liabilities, both our debt instruments and our currency, and the shift that has taken place, and how I'm assuming we all can see visibly how it's changed drastically because things have been sped up. with all the narratives, the formations of unions and all these pacts, all these these signings of deals. I can't even think of the word I'm talking about right now, but more than enough evidence has been revealed as to how the Federal Reserve System, SWIFT, and U.S. Treasuries and U.S. currency is no longer the same level. It doesn't get the same level of respect that it used to have pre-COVID time frame and going back to the GFC when things really began to kick off. So with that being the case, what I want to talk about today, one thing I was looking at before I went live, I was just looking at the journey that I've had trying to just better understand this transition. And I was looking at, like, for those who may not know or whatever, the de-dollarization playlist, where literally since 2015, every time there's been a meeting between Xi and Putin, I usually have some thoughts on it. And so here's just all the videos I've done throughout the years. And I looked at the figures as to how, back in 2017, 18, 19, when RTD, Rethinking the Dollar, the channel used to get a lot more attention, just because I'm looking at the numbers. Look at the numbers here, how I don't get nothing compared to these numbers now. And so looking at the views, the view count. So right here, 5,000, 42,000, 11,000, 6,000, 17, 13, 11, 10, 10, 8, 27, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. I used to get way more views on this channel when it was smaller, meaning that, the algos was more favorable. So now I can't even get nothing on this channel. But again, I try to stay hopeful, knowing that I reach a few people every now and then. So for those who have stuck around with me from day one, appreciate you, man. For those who are new, welcome to the journey. Anyway, so let's get into it. So I typed in this. Let me bring this on the screen here. So I typed in. Let me get myself out the way here. Man, I'm everywhere. So just real quick, I typed in Xi and Putin. Typed in Xi and Putin on X. Of course, you get more realistic media from there. And so here we got just the red carpet being rolled out. Xi steps off the plane. China sends their entire, basically, monetary, political authorities all out to shake this man's hand. So you see here, army salute. He get the red carpet. He get the best of best treatment when he arrives, and vice versa when Xi arrives in Russia. But then again, I'm thinking, like, when the U.S. go over there, I've shown video footage where Xi don't even meet with our officials. Like when Blinken was over there, basically threatening them. When Yellen was over there, basically threatening them. They don't meet Xi. They meet all the second-hand, third-hand workers to discuss whatever, because they gets no carpet, they gets no band, they gets no nothing. It's like, clearly that right there lets you know who's in better standing with China and Russia in comparison to the U.S. And so once again, these every time Xi and Putin shake hands, we move closer towards a world that is de-dollarized. That's been the premise of the show the whole time. So here you got them shaking hands. And I've never seen, and this is an observation from the Western perspective, me being a skeptic and a critic of pretty much everything given to us from our media. And just remind you, as I've mentioned, whenever Xi and Putin shake hands, they always are smiling and giggling as if they know something we don't know. And so it's just interesting to see that. I would love to be a fly on the wall and closed doors when, of course, they're in these quietly, secretly, bunkers that have no electronic communications coming in and out, so they can be 100 with each other. I would love to be a fly on the wall because I'd imagine the things that they're strategizing is favorable for them, but detrimental for us on the Western Hemisphere at the end of the day. So anyway, just looking at this. So look at this video here. You got these kids. Like, when the last time Biden or even Trump or anybody from the West went to China and had the kids brought out? They took the kids out of school, brought them over there. And then look at this long carpet walk. Think about this. They got the band, the military. I mean, this is serious. And like, the reason I bring all this up is because, to me, this signifies the union they have that our media would never highlight, showcase, or even go into depth about what is going on over there with this union. So anyway, let's keep it moving. I thought this is just me setting up what's happening over here. So let me just move some things here. So, okay, here is a infographic that I was trying to, line up my documenting of the de-dollarization process based upon their meetings. So here it says Russia and China's leaders have met about 40 times in total. So Xi and Putin first shook hands back in July 17th in the year 2000. That goes to show you how long they've been in power in some form or fashion. So every year, 2001, 2, 4, 5, 8, 9, great financial crisis, they met 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 23, and then right now today. And then this is how many times President Xi visited Russia. First time in 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, 19, 23, and 3. So mind you, every time they meet, they're strategizing something that goes beyond the dollar, in my opinion, and the Western world's unipolar order that they are so bent on trying to disrupt. And so where am I going with this? The narratives that we get. So look at this headline. Look at this headline here. This is look at this headline here from the Western media source, the Business Insider. And so as I was reading through it, I'm like, dog, like this is pure propaganda. But then again, like for the average American who may be interested in this, they'll read this and they'll get a completely different story from what's really happening in reality in that region. And so just real quick, look at this. Putin is putting his bromance with Xi on full display, but China has reasons to be wary. Okay, so just from that alone, if I was a casual business person here in the West, I'm like, there's some conflict there. There's something there that is more negative than positive based upon what they're really working towards. So, really, really, really. Okay, so it says the countries form no limits partnership in the wake of Russia's Ukraine invasion. They bring up the Ukraine invasion. They don't, when them two get together, they don't talk about the Russian-Ukraine invasion because that's a proxy war put on by the West. And of course, they could probably actually be in on it themselves. So it's not even a topic. But it says, rolled out the red carpet for his old friend, Vladimir Putin on Thursday. It says, as he arrived, Putin's Russian president was greeted by children waving flags. For his part, Putin lavished praise on China, whose support has been vital during Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So once again, the Russian economy is doing better now as a result of the Ukraine invasion because literally they have been able to position their Russian ruble as a primary medium of exchange that their trade partners have to use, which definitely helps them out. So they're not hurting all that much. And so once again, I'm not trying to defend none of this. I'm just being critical about the Western media and how the mainstream media is called the lamestream media because they lie. It says, but underneath the pageantry and the rhetoric, Xi is under mounting pressure over his alliance with Putin, and he has good reason to be wary of their no limits partnership. So they're making it seem like Xi is concerned about partnering with Putin because of the Western influence on the Russian-Ukrainian response and how the U.S. has threatened China on, as I said the other day, money laundering in reference to his relationship with Russia and everything like that, and them supporting Russia because he's in need of their technology and their help to fight Ukraine because his economy is doing so bad and his military is losing, according to what they tell us over here. Okay. So once again, I'm not going to go through any of this, but you see just within these couple sentences here, the complete false narrative that people would believe if they didn't know any better. Okay. So here is an Eastern news source, Sputnik. So this has come out of Russia. So of course it's slanted to favor Russia. But then again, if it quotes Putin several times directly, those are his exact words based upon what he thinks, what he feels, and what he's telling the media, but it's in response to what he's actually telling people in China. And just listen to the improvements and the developments that they're excited about. And they're even looking forward to even greater partnerships and collaboration. And it's not denominated in dollars. That's one thing the Western Hemisphere didn't tell us, that their trade deals isn't denominated in dollars. That's a major part of this whole de-dollarization push. Russian-Chinese cooperation is one main stabilizing factor in the international arena. So Putin, I read through this, he's talking about the bigger picture, how their partnership and the unions that they formed are basically leading the way for the multipolar world that they've put themselves in charge of creating. So that narrative wasn't given over there. So real quick here, I gotta give you some of this just because it gives you a better picture as to what's really happening. Moscow and Beijing have accumulated a solid baggage of practical cooperation. Russian Prime Minister Putin told a meeting with his Chinese counterpart. The Russian president recalled that bilateral trade last year increased by almost a quarter and reached 227 billion. Putin has also emphasized that China remains Russia's main trade and economic partner. Quote, according to the results last year, Russia has moved up to fourth place in the list of China's trade partners. The approval of the plan for the development of key areas of Russian-China economic cooperation until, what year is that? 2030. Why is everybody so pressed to get things done by 2030? Yeah, I'll let you guys share your thoughts on that one. But 2030 is a pivotal year because by then, the forces that are against humanity will fully have rolled out every single thing that they have wanted to roll out. And they're doing their version. They're playing their part as well. Okay, so keep it moving. Here's just more things here. So these are just some things. It says humanitarian contacts are expanding. We will hold years of cultures of Russia and China between 24th and 30th, whatever. Keep it moving. These are all quotes, and I'm going to get to the juiciest ones in a minute. Let me see here. So here's another quote. It is of fundamental importance that the Russian-Chinese relationship is not opportunistic and not directed against anyone. Our cooperation is in the world affairs today is one of main stabilizing factors in international arena. Real quick. Russia and China are successfully cooperating in the United Nations, BRICS, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, as well as G20. We are determined to further harmonize integration processes in the Euro-Asian space to make the potentials of the Euro-Asian Economic Union and, my dear friend, your One Belt and Road Initiative. So what this means, Russia is responsible for the Euro-Asian Economic Union, the EEU, which is all the nations which were formerly Russian territories. They've all partnered together. They all got currency swaps, bilateral trades, all types of agreements done in their currencies. And on top of, they actually have a payment network that they use amongst themselves already. And then you have the One Belt, One Road Initiative, which is China's vision for the future, connecting China all the way to Spain, the tip of Portugal, and going down to Africa, and all the maritime trade routes, and all that being done and built out by China, with the digital yuan being the primary medium that all the participants are probably going to use in the future. So everything they're doing is working on building out Russians Union and One Belt and One Road Initiative, which will probably merge together because, mind you, everything's digital now. So they have everything they need to execute all types of new payment structures, payment systems, all done on their own country's ledgers, which will be interoperable. So mind you, all nations, CBDCs, whole CBDCs, they're all doing the same thing. And mind you, if you didn't write the code, you won't be the beneficiary in none of this digital stuff. Okay, real quick here. Let me see if I want to bore you some more with this stuff. It says here, real quick, today in a warm, friendly, and constructive atmosphere, we discuss with President Xi Jinping and state and prospects of bilateral cooperation, Putin said. Says the leader noted that with satisfaction, the intensity of the dialogue in the field of politics and security with the progressive dynamics of economic exchanges, the expansion of humanitarian contacts, and effective coordination in the international arena. So literally, all those buzzwords bears basically saying that every aspect of their economy, even political figures with the cultural stuff, they're working hand in hand to accomplish some things. And it actually, let me see if I get to the last part here and I'll stop boring you guys. Okay, so this is the last part here. These are like quotes from Putin to Xi directly, because this is Russian news source covering Vladimir Putin inside of China. It says here, about 90% of all payments between Russia and China are made in rubles and yuan, Vladimir Putin said. Today, 90% of all payments are made in rubles and yuan. We have just talked in a narrow format about the areas in which we will further develop our relations. And all of this is in the interest of both Russia and China economies. I am sure that all the planned activities will be carried out, Putin said, and talked to Chinese, whatever. So here we have a very different narrative given to us from the Western media, where they cover all the more negative side of the China Putin relations. And it gives you the impression, based upon the narratives that we spin up over here, that China is weary of dealing with Putin because Putin is caught up in the Russian-Ukraine conflict, which he's losing that war and his economy is suffering. And the West don't want China helping Putin, with any type of lifelines to stay alive and stuff like that. Clearly, what I just showed you is completely false. And real quick, I'm not going to go into any greater detail, but here's another article here that lists all economic indicators that the West will never tell you, showing that since the Ukraine proxy war, the Russian economy has gotten even stronger. All their statistics that they use to measure economic activity has increased. And so how are they doing worse? I don't know. But real quick here, let me see. So the title is called "Why is Russia's Economy Booming Despite the Sanctions?" And this came out on May 11th by Alexander Kollender, probably a Russian source, which him getting an accurate viewpoint on Russian figures from within Russia. Of course, they could have doctored numbers, but based upon our media, their media, those numbers probably are more truth-like than anything else. But it says last month, IMF raised its forecast for Russia's economic growth to 3.2% in 2024. They raised it. This brings the country in line with the global average and exceeds the forecast growth for the U.S. So literally, their economy is expected to be 3.2%. Ours is 2.7%. And if ours is all debt-based and they don't have no real debt problems in Russia, like, okay, so what's driving their growth? Oh, they're being productive. They're exporting out to the rest of the world, real world resources, oil being the primary one. And it says here the manufacturing producers manufacturing index, a fundamental reading of business confidence, has reached its highest level in almost 18 years. And this is in Russia. So literally their PMI has reached an all-time high. So manufacturer purchases managers index, their PMI is at an all-time high. And over here, ours was at a low and it was downgraded. Two different economies. It says salaries adjusted for inflation still high at 7.4%, but stable, are rising, especially for low and middle income workers. So according to the figures there, the average worker in Russia is also doing better. Russians are spending more on restaurants, white goods, and even in property. So once again, there's more figures here. If you're interested, go look up this article for yourself. But once again, the narrative that we get here, man, is night and day. They've lied to us hand over fist from the Western media. The world has moved on. They're not doing as bad as we are being told. And why are they lying to us? It has everything to do with the dollar, aka the Federal Reserve note, and U.S. liabilities, our bonds. And so the world is no longer in dire need of those instruments. And so between now and the time there's a great awakening period in the monetary system, we will see more stories that will paint a much different picture than reality. And so that's why I take it upon myself to always remind people of why people are rethinking the dollar. And hopefully through this journey, you also rethink the dollar. And this gets into the primary thesis of this channel. All dollars are not created equal. There's different forms of instruments that are labeled as dollars, but only one true dollar has carried weight since the foundation of this country. And it has been an ounce, or roughly, a certain grammage of silver or gold minted at the United States Mint. That is American constitutional money. Anything else beyond that is somebody else's debt. I owe you nothing. Subject to debasement or confiscation via ledger. So if you know the distinction between sound money and fiat currency, and if you choose to have more of one over the other, you'll be able to weather any of these storms, figuratively speaking, from a financial standpoint. Okay. And so why I mentioned that. So yesterday, in the video that I put up about the gold situation, I highlighted strategically how gold has become front and center in the financial world based on foreign sources. And even here in the U.S., the gold ETFs have been seeing a significant drawdown because more people choose to get physical. And that has a major impact on our currency moving forward. And it doesn't help when you see articles like this confirming even more of what I talked about yesterday. So this came out today from Bloomberg. So this is a Western media source. And so this was enough to get me to think that, okay, the West is not completely oblivious to what's going on, but they're trying to keep the average person dumbed down and distracted as to the ramifications of what is going on the monetary scene and how it will impact us here in this country. In time, this is not going to be an overnight thing, because I've been talking about rethinking the dollar, de-dollarization, as I showed you guys earlier, for quite some time. But it's progressing. China sells record sum of U.S. debt amid signs of diversification. So China selling treasuries is proving to the financial world here in the West that they're diversifying. And so just based upon that response there, they're getting out of debt and are getting into assets. So don't just read what they are doing, mimic what they're doing according to whatever your financial strategy is. But real quick here, China sold a record amount of treasuries and U.S. agency bonds in the first quarter. Give me a second, I gotta move some stuff. Highlighting the Asian nations' move to diversify away from American assets as trade tensions persist. And so, as the last video I mentioned, the retaliation that the U.S. is placing on the U.S. in tariffs. Granted, Chinese products coming this way have tariffs, sure. But then again, the initial agreement, which led to the made in China narrative and reality that we have here, is that agreement took place 30 years ago with the elimination of the NAFTA and basically the hollowing out of the manufacturing sector here. So that was a part of the plan then. It's changed now, but it's a result of China dumping our debt. That's why the U.S. is so hard pressed on trying to keep treasuries at the top of the list of assets to accumulate, because if China's moving away from them, who's going to step in and fill in the gap? Because on this other end, China and Russia are working together to unify the world beyond debt instruments from the West. So real quick here, it says Beijing offloaded a total of 53.3 billion of treasuries and agency bonds combined in the first quarter. So when I saw this visual aid here, it got me to thinking, like, okay, so based upon going back to the year 2000, China from 2000 all the way till all the way, so the breaking point, official breaking point of China being willing to subsidize Western debt accumulation and debt expansion, it all stopped right here. If I was to zoom in right here, so literally when we saw this major sell-off right here, this is when the world changed. And so based upon this graph here, I would put that at about 2016, 17 ish. 2015, 2016 ish. I wish I could zoom in and get an actual time frame here. But for my people who follow this extensively, I'm sure you know. Let me know in the chat. But from that moment on, that's when the narrative changed. And since then, they have been sellers overall more than buyers. And so along with this transition back in 2000, they've been accumulating a massive amount of gold throughout this entire period. But they were accumulating gold along with supporting the U.S.'s debt binge by basically being our creditor, one of our top two creditors. At one time, I think they were number one. And so the narrative has shifted. They have decided to opt out. And it's amazing that what else happened around the same time is when the whole Russia-Crimea situation took off, where sanctions became something that was used heavily around the world more than normal. And as a threat of possibly China being feared of being sanctioned in that capacity, that's less of a reason to hold somebody else's liabilities. So I'm sure that played into it. Okay, so this is where we're at now. This is the biggest drawdown in a single quarter, the biggest drawdown of $53 billion in Q1. So I'm thinking, okay, if $53 billion in Q1, what do you think it's going to be in Q2 then? Given all this pressure, given all this, tough guy act that the West now is imposing on China with the tariffs and stuff like that. So, just pure speculation here, but if they did 53 in semi decent times, even though there's pressure before that, by now the U.S. threatening them directly, I'm thinking like you got to at least double up on that. So if it's 53 this first quarter, make it 106 the next quarter, barring some event, barring some type of reason to, not necessarily want to dump more of your reserves or your savings account. Because mind you, this 8.7 billion, 870 billion-ish that China's sitting on is considered their savings account that allows them to do transactions on an international scene in USD terms. So they don't want to deliberately, sabotage their savings account. So they got to be strategic with this. But I'd imagine with the threats coming from the West on tariffs and all the things that I mentioned the other day, they're gonna probably double up on this. So what does that mean? Where are they gonna spend those things at? They're no longer extending lines of credit to Africa the way that they were to build out the One Belt, One Road initiative. They're more so restructuring all those debt loans with Africa because African countries are underwater because of high interest rates and the stranglehold of there not being enough liquidity in dollar terms to fund that debt. So if they were to continue to dump, where are they going to put those funds at? Oh, let me show you where. China has boosted gold holdings in official reserves. So based upon the figures that we're given, it's no coincidence that as they're selling off, gold is also, in USD terms and other fiat currencies around the world, surpassed all-time highs. And so from 2015, at the same point that I pointed on the map here, where it was the break-off point, so literally, this was a great decoupling of from being a creditor to now being a seller of U.S. liabilities. In 2015 also resulted in the accumulation of their gold reserves. So literally, the more they dump, it just seems so natural that you dump debt and you get in assets. And so we've seen their gold holdings go up. And as of 2022, when we start seeing gold go well beyond the $1,900 mark, which the Western forces were able to keep it at $1,900, when the Shanghai futures really begin to ramp up heading into 2020, then we see gold starting to shoot up. So nations are literally getting out of debt. And when I mean getting out of debt, they're getting out of U.S. liabilities. And so as I was thinking earlier, like the more I see stuff like this happen, the more it really incentivizes me to really begin probably ramping up my strategy of diversification outside of debt instruments, even more so beyond what I normally do, just because I don't want to be left holding the bag either. If China don't want to be left holding the bag, neither do I. And I assume you guys don't want to be left holding the bag either. And what I mean by holding the bag, that means like literally having a savings account or a large accumulation of monetary instruments that are derivatives of what used to carry value back when the world was racing to hold them, i.e. our debt instruments, which is ultimately our currency. And I'm thinking like, okay, so that just incentivized me more to ramp up my rhetoric of the mantra that I always said, get your weight up. Because if nations are getting their weight up, they're getting their weight up by selling things that have no real value. And so there's going to be a major race to get physical in a world that is going digital. And so, yeah, to each his own. But this is just my little rant, man, on what's happening and the different narratives and how China and Russia, whenever they shake hands, they're strategizing beyond the dollar and our instruments. And onto some more news. Curious to hear your guys' thoughts on this real quick. Biden and Trump agree to 2 presidential debates for the first set June 27th. So political theater, man. It is unfortunate that this is all we have as representatives of our country. I'm a political atheist in the sense that I don't believe in any particular party, just because neither one of them really benefit us in any capacity. One slows things down and one is speeding things up. I'll let you guys determine who that is, because ultimately, at the end of the day, The only thing they can do is more of what they already done. And, once again, this is a great time to pull out a visual aid. Give me a second here. Let me just grab a visual aid, one of my favorite visual aids, because you never know who might be new in the community. So, no matter what, no matter who's in office, the only thing they can do is literally follow orders and test the environment of their voters to see what their voters want to hear. Just like whenever you have a Trump rally, he always makes sure he gets his crowd amped up by telling them what they want to hear, so he can get a lot of ooh, ah, yeah, and the like. But here, this is ultimately what it boils down to. Nobody in office will put more purchasing power back in your pocket because the system doesn't allow that. A debt-based monetary Ponzi scheme built upon fractional reserve lending doesn't allow for deflation, which means you get more out of your buck. You will only get less. And so from Woodrow Wilson all the way to Biden, this Federal Reserve structure is done. It's being rebranded. It's called FedWire and FedNow. Look them up for those who may not know about them. Those are that one is the ledger, the other one is the protocol. One is domestic, one is international. And they are probably going to be the gatekeepers to the synthetic dollars that will be created, whether it be stablecoin, CBDC, or just a shuffling of the deck with our current commercial bank ledger deposits that we have at the banks. Anyway, they're synthetic dollars, which is going to be a part of the upcoming election process. One of the candidates will be pro-digital. The other one will be restrictive, government-focused digital. So no matter what, in time, holders of debt instruments are losers because you lose purchasing power, you lose the quality and standard of living of life, and you'll be one of the last ones holding the bag. That's just all my opinion based upon all the things I've gathered over the last 10 years of rethinking the dollar. So, what else we got here? Speaking of which, just real quick here, back to gold and what was buzzing yesterday, which got a lot of people's attention. Big Short, Michael Burry, piles into physical gold fund, Sprott Gold Fund, the Sprott physical gold fund worth more than 10 million in the first quarter. And so Burry now manages a hedge fund, asset management, Scion management asset, bought more than 440,000 units of Sprott physical. And so somebody asked me, what is that made up of? So I don't know how Eric Sprott has set this up. I don't know if it's like within a certain unit is a certain amount of weight, I'd assume, because to my knowledge, this is redeemable for physical. So you can actually get physical. This is what makes the Sprott Physical Gold Trust different than the GLD ETF, which is literally paper. It says the closing fund holds its assets in physical gold bullion. The gold trust is trading at a discount to its net asset value. PHYS sells at 1.6 discount to its net asset value compared to a 50-week moving average. So, yeah, that's a good trade for Michael Burry. No matter what, holding physical in the long run, you won't really lose out much. It will only go up, especially if it's being driven from the Eastern Hemisphere upward. So just something worthwhile there. And then lastly here's something that, I had somebody yesterday text me, Mike, what's going on in Cuba? I'm like, I've been following for a while and nothing new. It's just that due to the dollar stranglehold that the Fed has put on the world, last year, they already siphoned all the available US dollars out of the people's hands by having them deposited into the bank account there. And now it looks like because the government, for the most part, confiscated the dollars and gave them just pesos, they ain't got enough physical paper cash. So this article here's from last month, but Cuba runs short of cash as people face new hurdle in navigating the monetary system. So a carton of eggs that sold for 300 pesos in 2019 now sells for 3,000 110 pesos. It says state workers earn 5,000 to 7,000 Cuban pesos monthly, between $14 and $20. And so imagine a state worker. So a state worker per month getting $14 to $20. And so that is like, once again, a great example of how when monetary manipulation fails, it ruins people's lives. And Cuba has always been one of those countries that were not doing well anyway, but it really doesn't help that their economy was already dollar dependent. And now that there's no dollars, they're struggling. And so I went to Cuba and went twice, met a lot of good people. So here we have my little Cuba catalog. And so for those who are interested, got a chance to sit down with, one of the revolutionary guys, a business owner there, and just, my homie there who was my guy who took care of me there, and the like. And so I talked about Cuban dollars, the peso. They had two forms of currency when I was there, but in 2023 they literally canceled one for the other one. So the new kook, as they call it, is the CUP, is CUC. CUC is the Cuban peso, which is what they use now. The CUP was the currency that was pegged to the dollar and the euro. So it was like one for one. And not many people had those because those were used in trade amongst, business sector there. And so the average person had the CUPs or the CUCs, whichever one or the other. And that was one that was like, it was like 200 to 1. And that's what they're using now when they give these numbers of 500 or 7,000, equating to $14 to $20. That's a month. So imagine getting paid $20 a month. That right there is unsustainable. That is nothing that nobody and their mother can live off of. So, but then again, when the government subsidizes everything there, so every store, every bank is government ran. So I remember going into a couple businesses there in a government store. I went into the government store, like a 7-Eleven type of setup. And I remember going in there and the shelves were loaded with dusty items. Like it was dust on everything. And I'm like, damn, what's the point of being open? But it's government ran. And the locals couldn't afford to shop there because things were expensive. So they shopped on the street at the little kiosk. So everybody and their mother shop at kiosk. And they're like little carts in the street where people hustle. It's like a black market type of thing, but it's on the surface, things are literally 5-10 times cheaper there. So I'm in the government store shopping and come out with grocery bags or whatever. I'm thinking like, man, these dusty bags. But it's just it's a heck of an experience. It's just something that is one of a kind opportunity to experience. So anyway, I see something about RFK. Yeah, not debate. RFK won't be there. It's just it's RFK. I don't know what I just don't understand what exactly he hopes to accomplish. I don't understand. Anyway, yeah, that's just my rant, man. That's my rant for today. Hope everyone's doing well today. Enjoy the rest of your day. We're approaching the hour point, so that's longer than normal. But just wanted to highlight difference in narratives and how, despite what we're being told here, just believe me that when Putin and Xi meet, they're not concerned with our best interest over here in the West, and neither is our own government for that matter. So if you don't take matters in your own hand by getting educated, get informed, and take preventative steps, you stand to be on the wrong side of history. But then again, we all will experience change, but some worse than others. So, but anyway, be blessed, be safe, enjoy life, give, love, and hug, and everything will be all right. And don't forget, seek the kingdom first, and everything you need will be added unto you. That's a faith statement for those who believe. All right, good people.